Hey everyone, I'm Colleen with Awaken Catholic, and this is Awaken the Saint. Our saint today was so influential in the early Christian world that he is one of the most famous saints of the Church. Saint Martin of Tours, also known as Saint Martin the Merciful, was born to pagan parents in modern-day Hungary and grew up in Italy in the early 300s. Now, just before his birth, Christianity had been legalized within the Roman Empire, allowing Christians to freely practice the faith, and it wasn't long before it was flourishing. At the age of 10, Martin went against his parents' wishes and began attending a Christian church. It was here that his faith began. But being the son of a veteran officer, he was forced to join the cavalry at the age of 15. He traveled for years, touring around Gaul, Milan, and Trier as part of the emperor's personal guard. At the age of 18, he became a catechumen and was baptized. But he continued to serve as a soldier. During one of his tours, he encountered a beggar who had no clothes and was shivering in the cold. Moved with compassion, Martin took off his own cloak and with his sword cut the fabric in two. With one half, he clothed the poor man and kept the other half on himself. That night, he had a vision of Christ, who stood as the beggar before God, telling him of Martin's kindness. It was not long after this that Martin's conviction turned him away from the battlefield. He longed instead to be a soldier for Christ, telling his superiors that he wished to leave the army. He was charged with cowardice and threatened with imprisonment, but as a compromise, Martin offered to join the battle totally unarmed to prove his sincerity. However, just before the battle was to begin, the opposing army agreed upon a truce. Finally released from military service, Martin traveled to Tours, where he studied under Hilary of Poitiers, who is now a doctor of the Church. He became a monk and was also ordained an exorcist, who worked against the Arian heresy which denied Christ's divinity. Martin had many miraculous and mystical experiences. At one point, he had a vision telling him to return to his mother. He did so and ended up bringing her to Christ. Another time, he raised a man from the dead who had died suddenly before he could be baptized. Eventually, Martin established a Benedictine monastery at Tours in 361, and from there he evangelized the surrounding countryside, baptizing and proclaiming the faith. In 371, the people of Tours needed a bishop, and they knew exactly who they wanted. But to say that Martin was reluctant would be an understatement, but he was ambushed into accepting the position. Throughout his life, St. Martin is credited with countless miracles and exorcisms. One time, he was attempting to convert some druids. In response, they dared him to stand at the path of a sacred tree that was being cut down. Martin agreed and stood in its path, but when the tree fell, he was completely unharmed. The Druids saw it as an act of God's power and were converted. When he died in 397, he was already greatly honored, and thousands were said to have attended the procession of his burial. St. Martin's strong conviction and unwavering trust in the power of Christ is incredibly inspiring. I pray we all learn to fearlessly follow Christ in every circumstance, just like Martin did. St. Martin of Tours, pray for us.